Stand by Sound Q1, LX Q1 and tabs. Sound Q1, LX Q1 and tabs, go. This is Production Values, the Art of Amdram podcast, a show all about amateur dramatic and musical productions. In this series we will follow amateur productions from the initial idea through to show week. We will include previews of upcoming shows, reviews of shows already open, and take you backstage to hear how it all comes together. Welcome to the first episode of this new podcast, Production Values, a podcast dedicated to amateur theatre, or Amdram as it's often called. My name is Stuart Hanna. Amdram is a name that is occasionally used as a derisive term. However, the word amateur originates from the Latin amator, the lover, and from the Latin amare, to love. The reason that we give so much time to amateur productions, the late nights and sometimes long days, is a love of theatre, especially if you are behind the scenes. As amateur backstage crew, you don't even get the applause and adulation. We spend long evenings skulking around in the dark simply for the love of the art. So, how popular are amateur dramatic groups and performances? In the UK, it is estimated that there are over 2,500 amateur theatre groups, ranging from small groups performing plays in village halls, let's face it, the stereotypical Amdram group, through to high-quality shows performed in fully equipped theatres, some owned by the groups, and some performed in professional theatres with empty weeks to fill. According to a submission to Parliament by NODA, the National Operatic and Dramatic Association, the total number of performances given in a year is 25,760. The total number of people attending performances per year is 7,315,840, and the total number of people actively involved is 437,800, 29% of which are under 21. Big numbers, and not every group is a member of NODA, so the figures could be even larger. Amateur theatre provides a creative outlet for thousands of people and yet is sneered at by many and seen as not worthy of their time and money. But I say to people who have this attitude that without Amdram, many of our greatest performers may not have had their opportunity to be discovered or to realise that theatre and performance was their calling. As a Star Trek fan, I recently read Sir Patrick Stewart's autobiography, where he explains that he and other well-known people began performing on the amateur stage, including giants like Brian Blessed, who performed with Sir Patrick back in those early days. I spent a large part of my youth working backstage at the Little Theatre in Leicester, home of the Leicester Drama Society, who, as well as having a fearsome reputation for the quality of their output, also gave the first taste of performing to none other than the late great Sir Richard Attenborough, who made his first stage performance on the stage of the Little Theatre. Yes, it's true that there are some groups whose ambition and passion outstrip their talent and resources, but they're still deserving of support and encouragement. I was introduced to this slightly strange world of amateur theatre at a very young age. Armed with a bag of crisps, some sweets and a bottle of pop, I, along with quite a few other theatre kids, would sit through hours of tech and dress rehearsals. It's where my love of musical theatre comes from, really. Once I was 13 years old, I was old enough to work backstage. My first show was as a sound effects operator on a version of The Good Companions. It was a funny show, and it really didn't leave a lasting impression on me. I did a quick Google search just before starting the podcast recording and found that it is based on the 1929 book by J.B. Priestley. It opened on July the 11th, 1974 and starred John Mills and Judi Dench. My memory of it is that it was a bit too jolly hockey sticks for my 13-year-old tastes. Maybe I need to see it again as a 62-year-old. I might get more out of it, and I don't recall it ever being staged again. I've kept a collection of programmes for the shows I've done, and I've worked on many shows more than once. Deflayed a Mouse 3 times and Fiddler on the Roof at least twice. Maybe it doesn't get revived for a reason, or I could just be being ungenerous. Now, to highlight the effort that amateur groups go to provide a professional performance, I would like to give the example of a show that I worked on back in the late 1970s when I was a teenager. This was Peter Pan, which was done as the Christmas show, I think. In order to give a top-notch show, the Leicester Drama Society brought in specialists to create the flying effects. It worked brilliantly, and the show got great reviews. This flying technology was quite primitive by today's standards, but to explain the essential principle, I want you to think of the stage as a drawing of a rectangle on a desk in front of you. The edge closest to you is where the audience are, and this is downstage. The edge farthest away is back of the stage, or upstage. For the uninitiated, I should explain that stage right and stage left are the right and left from the actor's point of view, and opposite to the audience's right and left. So if you want to fly to upstage right, you need to start downstage left and swing, hopefully gracefully, to your end point. Now, for most scenes, being in an exact start position is not that important. However, for the nursery scene, when Peter first takes the children flying, it was critical, as they were to fly through the nursery set windows. On the first attempt, everything went well until it was time for the smallest of the darling children to go. This little 3-stone, 6-year-old girl is wearing a flying harness to which a wire is attached. This in turn is attached to a hemp rope out of sight of the audience, which is then attached to a 6-foot, 16-stone stagehand who has the rope wrapped around his arm for safety. So now we must consider power to weight ratios, as we have a 3-stone child on one end and a 16-stone bloke on the other. The cue was given, but sadly nobody noticed that the little girl was not on her launch mark. The stagehand jumped off of the 5-foot set of aluminium steps, and the child left the stage like a flicked flea. Within a second she had passed over centre stage at an altitude of about 8 feet, and probably hit escape velocity about that time too. Sadly, soon afterwards she hit something else, the set. By missing her mark she had also missed the window, but credit where it's due, there were no tears or tantrums, she was a real trooper, and when we went again, this time she hit her mark and missed the window. She wasn't the only one who had this problem. It became apparent during the rest of the tech rehearsal that Peter Pan would occasionally come off stage out of control due to the side effects of a process I believe is called acting. The actress would be so busy pretending to try and kill Captain Hook that she would take off unexpectedly, well, unexpectedly for her, and come spinning into the wings and hitting the ladder that the stagehand had jumped off of to make her fly. The solution was that an expendable member of the crew, me, would jump in after the launch and cover the ladder, acting as a cushion, and I was crashed into at high speed several times during the run. So, we may be amateurs, but we still go above and beyond the call of duty to entertain you, even backstage. Thank you for listening to Production Values. If you enjoyed it, please rate and share the show. This makes a big difference to how many people get to hear it. If you're involved in a production and would like it to feature on Production Values, please get in touch via email by dropping a message to info@stuarthanna.com. Details are also in the show notes.